Bueno, continuando con el programa,
Going on with our program,
muy grato presentar
Okay, well, I'm going to now introduce the next speakers, and they are María, Pilar and Carolina Brañas, and these two fine ladies are pedagogues. One is a professional pedagogue, and Carolina is a nurse, but both of them have carried out a special study in the field of family mediation, and both of them have incorporated what they've implemented techniques that are absolutely fundamental as a supplement to the instructions or the teaching we provide, which we've just seen now from the biological perspective, because natural methods require change of behavior in the case of the users. And that is so. And one of the things that we have noticed that is necessary to help carry out this cultural change. These are new habits in a culture that is pointed towards something different, which is important for this couple to be able to understand what is at stake so that they can help each other and so that they can grow as a couple or as a married couple and so that they can receive coaching. And this is what they're going to refer to now, because they're going to be talking about their experience and the program they have in Chile. And we hope that you will enjoy this presentation like we are going to enjoy it from the auditorium. This is going to be online. These two ladies are not here. Unfortunately for us, they are in Chile. So I hope that you'll be able to hear them loud and clear, and they are open to any questions if you have them. So, Pilar, Carolina, welcome to both of you. Oh, by the way, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's pretty early. We're going to make an effort to be wide awake. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's go straight onto the issue at hand. And as the doctor has pointed out, this is a workshop that we have prepared in order to be able to explain to you what our coaching is like for these couples that use this method, the method of natural fertility awareness. And for this, I would like to point out the context. Why is it that this coaching program, why was it born for couples? Well, it was something like, I think it was 8 years ago when this happened. This was the reality of what we were experiencing, which I think is, well, it's pretty evident. That is 100% of the couples that arrived in the program, well, there was a very high rate of dropouts. That is 60%, and there was 21% of them that actually did finish the instruction. So this obviously posed a problem for us, okay? So what can you do with this big dropout rate that we were having? Well, there was a hypothesis, and why was this happening? And well, one of the reasons, what explains these dropouts, and we believe that one of the reasons is that because it's difficult to change. It's difficult to carry out that paradigmatic shift from stopping taking contraceptives and move on to something that is completely natural to control fertility, and which requires a much greater effort on the part of the couple. So for what we did, well, we joined the team, and well, our main experience had to do with the management of communication techniques, negotiation, and conflict solving in such a manner that we could assist the instructors in their work. And the main challenge was doing out the re-engineering of the affective link. And we had to say that the sexual relationship is not the only thing in a relationship. It's just yet another bridge, and it's something that is included in something that is very nice, very round, and very circular, which has to do with affect. So so that what we were doing is incorporating a new lifestyle which would favor decisions of this kind. But it was a challenge. And this is why we used a methodology. We created this coaching program with what we call recruitment by convenience. In other words, not all centers. There are 3 centers where our program is up and running with perfectly defined objectives that were different in each session. And this was not applied to all the patients, but rather they were patients by convenience. But these were patients that joined the program according to a number of selection criteria. And this is the general picture, so that you can see that this is, this was after the instruction. It's something like 20 minutes. We have a chat with the couple, and when they first join, 15 days after 1 month, and by month 3, we provided them with reinforcement, and by month 6, the couple finished the instruction. So with these 3 methods perfectly defined, we solved the conflicts, we supported the instruction, and then after that, we referred them to the rest of our team. So what was the idea? The idea was to be able to allow these couples to come to an atmosphere of trust, and they also offered the possibility of speaking to us and of solving conflicts.
¿Conversar qué? Conversar su historia.
Talking about their history as a couple, talk about their particular situation, about sexuality, about their skills in the family, solve the conflicts that appear little by little, especially that do interfere in the learning of the evidence of this method. How is the partner going to participate? Problems and crises that may arise and during the learning of the instruction and the method may appear, and agree upon specific ways of communicating, specific solutions to their conflicts, etc. The program, through these examples that show how this coaching is being carried out, are achieved by means of specific techniques that we, the mediators, use, and many other professionals as well. We put in red 3 techniques that we are going today to, that we are going to give them, that can be well used by everybody. And when we generate the conversation space, we need them to really be listening actively. And how do we do so that this works in that way, with this listening, active listening? And also we will tell them with different sentences what it's all about, different questions that make them explore the situation of the couple. A very important technique is the legitimacy that we will see, that supports the persons feel able to use and develop the method. And also, very often, we have some conflicts that appear in specific situations of the couples. And this is being solved through a certain style of questions that we will see, some of them, that help the persons to think again and to reflect upon and negotiate and solve the problems they have together. And also to reach agreements, we have other techniques. We are going to have the styles of questions and legitimacy, as I said before. We could then say that coaching is always achieved in an environment of delicacy and trust. This is our most important goal when starting each coaching. How did we do in order to assess the results of coaching? On the one side, we've made a qualitative analysis where we have seen that we have a good feedback from the couples. They like the coaching. And also some quantitative indicators where we see some indicators that tell us about how they adhere to the program with or without coaching. From a more qualitative point of view, here we have some expressions that our users have used. For instance, they say it's gratifying to stop and that somebody is interested in your story and values your story as well. Or on the other hand, now we talk about our intimacy, and we didn't talk about this topic before. And finally, we wanted to give a message from the man, a partner, who says there are things that we have been talking about here during the coaching that made the things got better. And this wouldn't have happened if we haven't gone through this coaching. And the experience of the more quantitative experience, or impact rather, what we have been able to see in those years is that the couples under coaching clearly are better instructed with respect to 78% of the couples that are under coaching finish their instruction. And seen in another way, the coached companies interrupt less. There we have the comparison between the two, the fuchsia colored, the purple is those who receive the coaching, and those who don't receive is much smaller. We are able to obtain a greater adhesion to the method in the couples under coaching. This experience has shown us that this coaching achieved by professionals with good techniques, with very clear goals, is a new and very effective tool that has allowed to decrease the dropout rate. And here we would, as this is a workshop, we are going to try to invite you all to follow somehow a case that we are going to show to you. And before seeing the case, we are going to show three techniques that we have that facilitate coaching. One technique is a very important, interesting case, is the rephrasing of something. The rephrasing, what does it refer to? When I listen to the other, I listen his story, I have to collect it. And what do I collect from what he says? His emotions, how they feel, how they are, what is happening to them, their interests and needs. All this, and we put it in capital letters, this beautiful job that we do with the user is that we avoid advising. It's not an advisory board, so to speak. We look for the way through all these techniques to help them to, they themselves with their own tools have to be able to solve the conflicts that may appear. A second technique is the legitimacy or legitimation that is absolutely vital to learn it in all the examples of relations. It's to value what the other has and see, verbalize what are the tools, what are the strengths, what are the skills that we are seeing in the person, in each one of them, and how as a couple and as a family as well. And what is the idea? That they have to recognize that very often in those situations of coaching, they realize about their own skills that will then help them to face the different situations that they will be facing with the use of this method. And a third technique are a style of questions. We do use open questions that are questions that help mainly at the beginning to explore the case. We see what this couple is coming with, what is their story, understand in what phase they are, and also reflexive questions that are those that are going to help them to make decisions and solve the difficulties that they are in. And of course, clarifying questions that will bring us to better understand their story, their decision, and also them, to clarify what are their conflicts, needs, and interests. And now we want to ask you to come with us. We are going to show a very easy case with the idea that you see how we are working with the couples that are using this method. This is the case of Francisca, a user that we had. She was 40 years old when she came to us, to the coaching. She's a married woman. She already had a daughter that was 23 years old that lived with them in the same house. This woman who is 23, the daughter, had a couple, a partner, and also a child 3 years old that is the grandson of Francisca, and comes to the coaching for the first time. What is our goal in a first session in this case? See how this method is being perceived and what are the positive effects or the difficulties that this generates in the couple. Under this conversation that it generated, we start seeing something important. We observed that in the list of the user there was no register of sexual relations in the infertile periods. This is quite striking because this couple was looking to prevent a pregnancy. So we didn't understand why there were no sexual intercourses in the abstinence, and that the abstinence periods were very prolonged. We ask you to, together with us, try to enter into this case and start with a hypothesis. That's how we started simply. What do you think that was happening with Francisca? Imagine each one a hypothesis. Each one of you. Our hypothesis at that point in time was, well, we think that maybe she's not certain about the use of the method. Maybe she's not certain about her observations or her registry, or simply she forgot to register the sexual relations or record the sexual relations. We invite you to think, what type of question would you ask in order to explore this situation, to realize what really is happening there? We also ask a question, and we had an exploratory question trying to see what it was all about. We asked simply, how was the method for you? How did it go for you with the method? She said, fine. And she also adds, I know how to identify the fertile and infertile periods. So then, with that response, should we maintain this hypothesis, or should we modify it? Or what else could be elaborate? What other hypothesis? For us, assumption, it was not an issue of lack of knowledge of the method. So we then asked a second question, because we thought our hypothesis was maybe she has some difficulties with her husband, and we asked, what does your husband think about the use of this new method? A question that wants to have a clarification. She said he agrees and he thinks it well. We kept on exploring with our hypothesis. And we said, in the infertile periods, we see that you haven't had any sexual intercourse. Is there something that is happening and you don't want to tell us? Clarifying question. And she tells us that she lived with her daughter, who is 23, her partner, and her grandson, who is 3 years old. She tells us that the child, very many nights, they send him to their bedroom to sleep with them, and that coincides very often with the infertile periods. So the sexual life is broken down. So then, what would be important to explore at that point in time? We are finding now the difficulties. What do you think that would be important to explore at this point in time? The first thing that we asked her Well, it's certain, of course, it is having an impact on you as a couple. And she says, yes. We then ask, what did you do to solve that? Clarifying question. Nothing. Nothing. And if this is affecting you, what has prevented you from solving this topic? Oh, she says, I'm ashamed to tell my daughter. How can I explain that she is interrupting my intimacy? Those things are not spoken with your daughter. We are now coming close to reality. Are you ashamed of talking about this? What do we do with this question? We identify the emotion. Yes, yes, it's hard for me to talk about it. Well, what could we do to help her advancing without advising? We have not advised anything yet. Well, we decided to rephrase. Francisca, we can see that the method is being easy to learn by you, and that you are able to recognize the fertile days and infertile days. You also tell us that your husband accompanies in the decision of using this method. Is it so? Yes. We also see that very often you can't have any intimacy in the infertile days because they send your grandson to sleep with you, and this entails problems in your couple. Yes, that's how it is. So I thought, what reflexive question that means to help her in this, to think and to look for a solution that she should think about. We are not advisors. We have to wait for them to look for and find the solution. Well, we asked the following reflexive question. What do you think, Francisca, that will happen if this topic is not rapidly solved? That my husband will be bored with this method. Oh, yes. And would you like your husband to be bored with this method? Another reflexive question. It would be very sad because we learned that, and I don't want to go back to the contraceptives. So we then summarized. And so for you, it's important that your husband is still interested in the method, and so that you don't have to go back taking contraceptives. Yes, that's how it is. It's a clarifying question there. This has been a good work that you have done together. You have learned the method, and you have made the decision of using it and use it well. Is it so? Yes. What do we include in this rephrasing? We legitimate their effort, their joint effort in order to learn this method and maintain the method. Yes, she says. So then we ask another question. What do you think that you should do? What do you think that you should do then? I'm going to have to tell my daughter, I don't know how, I was embarrassed. And what do you think that you could tell her? I don't know. I can't think about it. Let's say it the other way around. What wouldn't you like to tell her? I wouldn't like to tell her so openly that I can't have sexual intercourse when they send the grandson to me. And what do you think she's going to think if you say that? I think that she's also will feel ashamed, embarrassed. She is embarrassed like you. Clarifying question. No, she's younger, and she says things right out. So do you think it would be for her so strange that you say that your grandson is interrupting the intimacy of your marriage? If I tell her that I need more intimacy with my husband, she will understand that. So are you going to tell her that? Yes, it is necessary for her to know it, and she's going to understand it. So then, what could to legitimate is to assess any value, anything, any tool that she presents. We legitimated in her the capacity of pursuing with the method, in spite of not being able to have a greater intimacy, she never stopped observing and recording. And she also looked for and found the way of being able to talk to her daughter and keep on going ahead with her new lifestyle of living, experiencing her sexuality. That's how the session finished. What do you think that the results of this intervention were? First, the woman was able to speak to her daughter and solve the problem. The second one, the couple maintained the use of the method of natural fertility awareness. We think that if, well, the question is better, what would have happened if she hadn't had these coaching, conversations, reflection, and solution? Certainly we would have lost that couple. What would have happened if we had directly advised, no, you don't have to receive your grandson, tell your grandson to go back to the other bedroom? Many things could have happened. First, remember that she felt embarrassed. It was not an easy issue to talk about with her. We had to make a whole intervention so that she could specify what happened to her, and certainly tell her, don't receive your child to your room. In your room, she couldn't have done that because her conditions were not those that we, in our case, could have had. So the beautiful intervention, interesting intervention that the coaching does, that from their own possibilities, through their own reflection, they have to reach the solution. As a summary of this case, what that we did, we rephrased, we collected her interest, that she wanted to live her intimacy, and she had to look for that space and time for the couple. And they needed to make the situation more transparent. What emotion was collected that was very important? The embarrassment that was legitimated, and she followed the observation and registry in her card, and the questions that we were asking. This reflects how we can see in just a short scheme the coaching that we have given. And in order to conclude, well, the learnings that we've had, this is somehow what Pilar said at the end of the case, the need of looking at the comprehensive look at the couple, not only the aspect of learning of this technique, but there are many realities that are hidden in the couple that may be interfering or needing to be solved in order to be able to conquer that adhesion to the method, and that appear in the coaching and that help us to better understand the couple and make this final decision. It's also to encourage the method as a lifestyle. It's not only a technique, a contraceptive natural technique. It's a whole new lifestyle, and sometimes it's hard and needs some support. This example of conversation is really a need that we have to enhance it with goals. Some users, thanks to this space, we have been able to recognize, we have been speaking of issues that we wouldn't have touched upon either. So clearly this has been a good experience in this case. And the natural awareness of fertility appears as an excellent tool for the couples to have an affectivity that is integrated to their sexuality. This is our presentation. Thank you very much. Maybe there are a few minutes for questions or comments. Thank you very much, Pilar, Carolina, for this presentation that is showing the importance of this comprehensive coaching, not only a technical vision, but also a more comprehensive one. And the specific example, how we advance and how we can help the patient or the user with the fertility awareness, not only from the rational perspective, but what it means for them as a couple. It's very attractive. So the floor is open for discussion, questions, or comments that you would like to ask here in the auditorium from the people in the auditorium or people online. One question is, what are the difficulties that you observe that have appeared in the couples that are entering this instruction process that you have helped or that you have found? This is a question they are asking from the auditorium. The main difficulties that you find, the change of habits from an archetype based on a contraceptive program to the use of a technique of this nature that allows to diagnose fertility. I suppose that's what they are referring to in the question. The truth is that we have seen that it can be a difficulty at the beginning, then it's transformed into a virtue within the use of the method. A first situation that very often happens is that the user, the male part of the couple, somehow for him, this is something that is absolutely new. Generally, when couples come that are taking a contraceptive, it's the woman that is in charge of it, and the man doesn't participate. It's not something, not even to talk about. At the beginning, sometimes we can find a certain reluctance from the male part of the couple. And finally, then one of the goals of this coaching is to give him the possibility to be an active member in this situation. And how actively? They go from a contraceptive system where the man is not participating to one where he is asked to voluntarily and in a creative manner, he should participate. So we see that throughout the coachings, there is a very interesting change that is taking place, especially in the man. They become more creative. In Chile, we talk about, well, like when they are just boyfriend and girlfriend, before the wedding, in the periods when they are fertile, for instance, and they don't want to have children, in that period, they also become creative. They look for other alternatives to be closer to the woman, keep on being, reconquer their wives. So this is a process that generally starts with a certain distance, but the support of coaching is making them be closer again and live this like in a more fun way. This is like when before they were married. I think the main difficulty is to talk, and she did in the example that we have mentioned. This natural awareness challenges the couple. They now have to have a permanent dialogue. It's a decision of how we are going to administer our fertility that is touched upon in the couple. They talk about sexuality, and very often it's not only the sexuality, but also the affectivity, the affect, the feelings, what things are working fine. How can we keep our space? We have to be creative. We have to generate communication. We have to organize our family life in order to have a privileged space. These are the typical challenges that we will be talking about. I think this is the most usual ones. Communication and the change of paradigm. And you, Carola, explained all the crises that they may experience as a couple and as a family that is affecting them by the use of the method. Crises that are evolutive and that can be expected within the marriage, and unexpected crises as well. We had cases where the mother-in-law came living to the house. They produce a great tension situations, for instance, that, well, they lost their job, economic issues. All these are stressing factors for the couple, and that we also we incorporated them in the coaching in the couples that have problems of infertility. There is an anxiety and anguish and stress in this period where they are knowing their body and when they have an important desire in order to become parents. And the work of contention is also part of our work in the coaching period. Thank you very much. We don't have much more time. The next speaker is waiting here, so we will thank so much for your presentation and to be up so early in the morning to be here with us. Very many thanks for that, Pilar and Carolina. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.